Welcome to the new Overlords Podcast, where we talk about video games and why they are the way they are. I'm Max, and with me is everyone's favorite crew member, my co-host Sema. Hello there, Sema.
Oh, I'm glad I'm everybody's favorite crew member.
I'm glad we recruited you to our Starfield crew and didn't shoot you in the story or whatever happens.
I just say entertaining things in the creases of your conversation today about Starfield.
You can do those interjections like Entrasia when she was in my Rev 8 earlier saying, I like it when you boost. You can say things like that. Also with us to talk about Starfield is Lars Gagnar. Lars, hello.
Hello, I'm booting Barrett from my ship, and I'm putting Sema on board the crew for sure.
There you go. There's a future expansion, or there's
it's an add-on,
a plugin. We'll add Sema as a character into the game as a creations.
There you go.
And it will cost $1,000, which we would all pay.
But it will be worth it, yes.
So, Lars, you're taking a break from Lars Gagnar Gaming on YouTube to join us. I'm glad.
Yeah.
How's that going? How the YouTube videos play through? So it's a playthrough series, all of your videos, but you're doing two. Is it two, or is now you started a third for the Shattered Space?
Two in Starfield. There's one, the main one, which I think is about episode 144 or something like that, and I decided, because I wanted to play with creations, and we talked about this, Max, before, that I wanted to play with creations, but I didn't want to bork my achievements. And you could install a plugin or an add-on to re-enable it, but I can't be bothered. And so I just started a new playthrough. And so it's a different character, it's a bounty hunter, and I have a whole bunch of creations. And of course, I have a spreadsheet listing the creations I have installed in the installation order. And I think I shared that with Max at one point in the Starfield channel on the new Overlords Discord, which you should join.
There
if you
we
joined
go.
it before.
Appreciate the cross promotion there. Thank you, Lars Gagnar Gaming on YouTube, and that's Lars Gagnar Gaming on YouTube. All right. Well, we will get into much more on what's going on in Starfield, especially the Shattered Space stuff, which we've both been playing. But first, let's talk a little bit about the news.
Good news, everyone!
Well, first up in the news is something that Lars, you've played plenty of Star Wars: The Old Republic in the day as well, but this was interesting to hear. Star Wars: The Old Republic is going to Mac, isn't it? So what did you think about this, Sema?
I don't know. My completely uneducated thought about it was maybe it's Broadsword's influence, but I don't know does Broadsword have Mac clients for its other games that it's
I don't know.
hosting? I don't know.
I don't know, but yeah, this was interesting to hear.
Maybe they had a hire and one of the, for something, but that one of their strengths was they could do a Mac port and support it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know what
bring in a lot of new SWTOR players. I can't imagine, but
right.
I welcome them.
That's the thing. I wonder what the market. I'm surprised there's a market for them to bother to do it. But apparently, they know what they're doing, so they've checked it out. Maybe the effort isn't big enough for them to not want to do it. But this is they're gonna have to be like testing it every time they do an update, and man, hope it's worth it. Just even the testing, when they put together a new build and all of their builds are in multiple languages, and now they're going to have to test it on a new platform in addition to it being out there on Steam right now, which I'm sure they're having to test it on Linux as it goes to Steam. So I don't know.
And the architecture difference, Mac porting is not like it was before when it was on Intel platforms.
Yeah, the modern engines like Unreal still do it relatively effectively, but you do need a separate build pipeline. It has to be built on a Mac, but Unreal will do it for you. They're not on Unreal though. They're not on a modern game engine, but maybe they've got the capabilities, and maybe it was built in all along, just like Agatha all along. Anyway, we'll see.
I mean, and it maybe is something where somebody had to give this in order to get something else completely unrelated. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. And if I can find details, it's a good topic for my software engineering students. So yeah.
Yes.
I was a little annoyed for iOS, making iOS builds or Mac OS builds, that Apple forces you to have a Mac computer to be able to do
Right.
those builds. That
Yeah.
annoyed me because I wanted to mess around. I wanted to do some of my game testing when I was practicing development, and I wanted to turn it into an iOS app so I could try it on a phone device. Nope, you can't do
Yeah.
that without buying a Mac. All right,
Yeah,
well,
and
nice move.
do
Thank
this
you.
in Xcode. Yeah.
The chat room points out, yes, this is another good sign. This is another obvious signal that Star Wars: The Old Republic is not dead. They're porting it to more
Exactly.
platforms. They wouldn't be doing that work if it wasn't going to be used at all. Someone else who's doing some work is Mark Zuckerberg. Hello, Mark. Two interesting moves. One I think is interesting, one I think is less interesting, but still interesting. Boy, that really was prepared for this news topic, didn't it? The Quest 3S got announced. So the Quest 3S, instead of doing a Quest Pro or like an advanced version of the Quest, which is kind of what I think Sony just did that with their VR headset, this is actually a cheaper version of the VR headset of the Quest 3. It's slightly less performant. It has a slightly different lens technology that doesn't have as much peripheral vision, but it's still pretty good, and it's reported to be good, and it's a couple $100 cheaper. That seems to me to be like a good move. They know what the Quest is. The Quest is a good device. It's got a good market. Make it cheaper, get it out there more, let people play with it. It's a VR headset. It's not this other stuff. It's not what Apple did with their new headset, which I think was a useless move. A response to Apple, though, in the AR space, they announced these Orion glasses. Have you guys seen these? The actual device?
I mean, not in person, but yeah, I read about it.
Yeah. So this, I think, is the direction that AR should be headed, and it's a step in the right direction. I approve of this step in the right direction. It's not a shipping product. It won't be a shipping product for a long time, but it comes in 3 pieces. It comes with a set of glasses that look like big, thick, clunky Ray-Bans, but just slightly thicker, slightly clunkier. I think that is the right format. Trend towards looking like sunglasses, look like a set of Ray-Bans. And when you can get there, where it's just a set of Ray-Bans, you're in the right space for AR. They complement that with 2 other pieces, which I think is the right way to go. A compute puck that communicates with the glasses, that has the extra battery and the compute that sits in your pocket. It looks like a phone charger brick. You know, you'd get one of those little external chargers. Looks like that. That looks. There's a comment in the chat room I'll get to in just a second, which is spot on. I've heard from other military people as well. BCG's birth control glasses. They look like military issued, standard frames, and multiple military people have spoken up immediately that that's what these look like. But yeah, the third component that's part of this package is a wristband, and the wristband does something interesting. So it's not only spatial, or maybe it's not even spatial at all. I think it is. I think it's spatial. So it's got gyroscopes that can tell where and inertia sensors that can tell where your hand is moving around. But what it also has is nerve sensors. So it can sense the nerve impulses on the back of your arm and tell what your fingers are doing. So now what you get is, in addition to your hand waving around, fine control on your fingers grasping and pinching and moving and doing things like that, which allows you to do things like grab holograms in space. So when we get an AR headset that you can walk around on the streets and get things overlaid on the real world, like directions, like information on the shops you're walking by, like pop-up instant messages in your field of view, like facial recognition, and for people that have opted in, blah, 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 blah. But facial recognition of
remember
your
their
friends
name, and it helps me.
with their names and the last time you talked to them and the names of their kids. that is when this future will potentially land.
Right, and when they also put in like the wearable health features like you would get from an Apple Watch and
Right.
uh,
But until that time, it won't
lenses.
land. Because if I'm sitting at my desk looking at my 4K awesome computer screen or my 3 computer screens, to have another holographic computer screen also in my field of view, I know the Apple headset does that relatively well, but I don't need to I don't want to spend $3,000 for that. Do I want do I live in a shipping container which doesn't even have enough room to put, a $500 TV on the wall? Does anyone in the world? No, you can go to any third world country and everyone still has TVs. Do I want to buy a $3,000 headset so that I can have a virtual TV in my space? No, everybody's got a TV. Why would I do that? Except for novelty. So I don't know what Apple is thinking. You can't wear it. It doesn't work outside. It doesn't do the things you do. You look dumb wearing it. You don't want to wear it because it's a big clunky thing on your head. Could I give? This is like I was okay. I said I would not rant for an hour about this. So yeah, I think it's a step in the right direction.
I like the modular part where you could upgrade the brick, maybe.
Yes, I think that's the right way to go on that as well. Or you can update if you get lenses that have more peripheral vision and higher resolution, and keep the brick or whatever.
Modularity.
Like I'm upgrading my monitor, and so maybe they can have an entry level cheap version with lower resolution that will then get penetration in the market. And for the ones that want the high resolution, you can just upgrade the lenses.
Plus, you can get it for cheaper with ads. Oh.
Sema, you found an adjunct to this story. What did you hear about what Microsoft's doing?
They have discontinued efforts on their VR offering, the HoloLens.
Yeah, their AR headset HoloLens 2, which they stopped the production on the hardware, but it was still up in the air if they would be making a HoloLens 3. Yeah, news. It was sort of official announcements this week, I think is what you saw, and I think I heard that as well. That support is going to be ending in 2027 for the devices on getting security updates and operating system updates, and there are no plans at this time to make a HoloLens 3, which I think is fine. I think there was no future for that device either. If they were going to make a HoloLens 3 that looked like what Facebook is doing, then as a step towards a possible future, I would have approved of them making that step. But another version of the HoloLens that looks like HoloLens currently does has no future. So that's a fine way to go. This next news article, just the headline caught me because I think we've mentioned Warhammer in the past. So the headline is, Games Workshop is so protective of Warhammer 40K, it told the Space Marine 2 dev that they got the ankle armor wrong. Okay, I don't think that's the right way to phrase it. I think they're so into their design and their lore and their universe that they felt it was appropriate to comment on the ankle armor, which I think is really cool and fun and nerdy and geeky of all of them. But are they really protective of Warhammer 40K as an IP? I don't think so. I don't think so. I have this video which shows the 40 Warhammer 40K licensed games that have come out in the last couple decades, and the ranking of all 40 of those possible games that have come out over time. And there's so this
is there a Fortnite Warhammer?
There's everything Warhammer. And if anybody wants to do a Warhammer game, they're like, yeah, do it. Yeah, we want to do Hello Kitty Fortnite Warhammer or Hello Kitty Warhammer 40K. Sure. Yeah, we want to do a Warhammer 40K version of Angry Birds. Yep, do it. They're not at all protective of their IP. So fine. And these 40 might be beyond just 40K. No, this is every Warhammer 40K video game.
Yeah.
And this professional reviewer even had like a third of them that he couldn't even get around to playing. So that was just a funny headline.
Yep.
This next one, Lars, you even tried it out. This was a fun headline. And Sema, you're the one who found this, right? Warcraft on Waze. Explain what's going on here.
Well, I mean, I got
Sema.
it as an alert on my phone that it was available, and so when I clicked on that and looked at it, I'm like, is this real? And then I just Googled it, and it was already being reported by like multiple outlets. But basically, it's Thrall's voice for Waze. So if you use Waze when you're driving, you can hear Thor. I mean Thrall.
It's been a while since my last battle cry. That felt good.
And
Turn
it,
left.
Let's
what I read,
begin
it
this
definitely
journey.
it is Chris Metzen.
Up ahead, turn left, hero.
I need to turn it off. I had to install it. I
Take
just had
the
to.
next roundabout.
At the roundabout.
It reminds me of that commercial that I don't know which I was talking about in the pre-show. I don't know which of the navigation systems it was on, but there was a commercial that they did with Darth Vader in the sound booth where they were trying to capture voice lines for him to be on their navigator. And it was hilarious because he kept saying things wrong and they had trouble correcting him and that kind of thing.
What does Thrall say to you when you miss your turn?
I'll find out.
Champion,
I will report back to you.
you have failed, champion.
So, I mean, I just use Google Maps and it just goes boop.
do. I'm so.
I remember you at the
I think it
roundabout.
generally says something
Alexa
about
says, "I'm so
recalculating route.
disappointed in you." First of all, Sema, hello, good morning.
Ugh.
Second of all, you missed your turn.
And you just missed another one because I'm taking so long to tell you.
Quick rundown of some cool things that I will probably be playing each of these 4 launches that are coming in October. This one I'm not all that excited about, but it is an MMO and it is free to play that did launch yesterday, actually, Throne and Liberty. So Throne and Liberty is now free to play and available. It looks really good. I'm not all that excited about the style of MMO it is. So it's a Korean MMO. They reworked it from the Korean launch, which is very pay to win, very grindy. It's AFK grinding is what you do with it in interesting ways. So a lot of that stuff is taken out of it, but it's still very PvP focused. Large Zerg PvP is kind of like the end, like main end game activity, which isn't a thing I like. And grinding out all of like rush to level, in like 5 hours, get to max level, and then long grinds to level up your skills is kind of the MMO style, which I'm not too opposed to that. That style isn't terrible.
I wonder how easy it is to join a guild, or do they just assign you to a guild so that there's like roughly equal numbers?
It's a little of both from what I've heard, and maybe I'll get into it. And maybe I'm probably going to play it this weekend, so maybe we can talk about it some next week. But it's a little of both is what I heard. So next one that I'm more excited about. And Lars, how much of Diablo did you play?
I played a whole bunch the first 2 months, max.
Yeah,
I think.
which is kind of what I did. I played a ton. I really liked the story and have been looking forward to, since the launch, this expansion. So Vessel of Hatred is coming out next week. It's coming out on the 8th. So about the day before our podcast next week.
Time.
So we'll probably talk about it the following week. I'll spend some time in it. I like Diablo 4. I'm not big into grinding the seasons, but I really liked the game. I liked playing through the campaign. I liked playing a little bit of the whatever the waves and stuff, and a little bit of the end game stuff, but not a lot. It was I'm super looking forward to the expansion. It's very horror. The trailer, which we went into in previous weeks, is horrible. It's
Vessel of Hatred.
It's terrifying. It's the trailer itself is scary horror, scarier than than the Agatha TV show by an order of magnitude. Let's put it that way. Somebody was asking me, is Agatha scary? No, it is not. Also, coming out later this month, another game I'm fond of that I played quite a bit of, but, sort of pop in and out of just to sort of check out how it's going, is New World Aeternum. So they've described this as sort of a relaunch of the game. The main focus of the relaunch is mostly just bringing it to consoles. They've tuned up a couple things to make it perform well on consoles, to make crossplay work really well. They've also tuned up and changed their marketing. The game hasn't actually changed. So now they call it more of an action RPG MMO. It hasn't changed at all. It's still the same. If you played it before, it still operates the same. But it always was kind of action-y, and it was always kind of like action RPG game style. It's still just the New World MMO though.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good game, and I think this is only going to be good for them. I still think it's one of the best modern MMOs out there, even though it doesn't perform as well on sort of like the charts and stuff. There's a lot of MMO parts of this that are really satisfying. The crafting and the gathering in particular is just so satisfying. The sound design, the impact of your weapon as you hit the nodes, as you're hacking down a tree is just so well done. I don't know why
But how does fishing work?
Fishing is not bad. Fishing is actually pretty good. And it's a relatively complex, extensive system, but it wasn't annoying. It's not an AFK system that, like a passive system where you could be watching YouTube the whole time, but it's not set up where you need to fish up 1,000 fish. So then it's okay for it to be engaging. So we'll get to that later this month. And then how about this one, Lars? Are you going to play Dragon Age the Veilguard?
I'm tempted, definitely. And I'm tempted to install New World. I think I played it a little bit. I could probably play that again. But yeah, Dragon Age, definitely.
I've never played one of the Dragon Age games before.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you play the other Dragon Ages?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I had not, and I know it's been a miss, and I have been meaning to for a decade now, but
there's just too many games, Max.
Yes. I've across my gaming history, I've almost exclusively been MMOs up until probably about 6 years ago, and then started branching out of that. Still a lot of MMOs, but now more and more, I'm having so much fun in the single player games. If I have people that I can talk about it with and show things off to in Discord, then it's okay. Then it feels like an MMO.
Right.
It feels like how I play MMOs, which I go off by myself into a corner of the world and do a thing, but then tell other people what I did. And
but then in an MMO, when you play that way, you're also impacted by all the things they have to do for balance, which in a single player game, that's not an issue.
You don't have to. Exactly. So that's interesting. So we'll see. All 4 of those are coming out later this month. So that's Throne and Liberty, Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred, New World Aeternum, and Dragon Age the Veilguard. I will be excited to try them all. A bunch of other things coming out, obviously, but those are the ones I was most interested in.
Yeah, I looked at a list and that would probably line up with my interest as well.
And then there's all the games that I need to get back to. Like, I want to finish Outlaws, or at least play some more. And I will be going back to Satisfactory. That lives rent-free in my mind. I think about my supply chains and my factory designs. Still.
Nice.
Your discussion of it was interesting. I'm intrigued.
I cannot get it out of my head. I was playing Shattered Space and just in the back of my mind going, why don't I just dip in there and just set up the next supply line? I resisted so I could get through more Shattered Space. So hey, it's our friend Vasco.
Hi.
Do you ever wake up in the morning
Please
thinking
disregard. I attempted an informal greeting, but I am dissatisfied with the results.
I was bad?
You were asking a question while Vasco was talking about there.
Which is what Vasco does.
Do I ever wake up in the morning?
Yeah, when you're talking about satisfactory, it reminded me. Sometimes I kind of wake up in the morning thinking, "Oh, I'm going to go do this in such and such." It's not
Yes.
always a real thing either, because I'm not
Mhm.
always completely awake.
So two things have been really keeping me awake in the morning. Mostly, I've been. I like to sleep 7 hours at night, and then I often take a nap after I work out in the middle of the day because it's something I've always done, especially like during the marathon training. I'm not doing that anymore, but it really helps recovery. It's just sort of a sports thing I've loved to do. But 7 hours has been sort of a sweet spot. I've been at 6 hours the past couple weeks because of two things. So, and really, I like try to lay in bed and get that eke out that last hour, but it's been satisfactory and game dev. So we haven't caught up on that
Yeah.
in a bit, and we'll talk about it in the next couple weeks. I think we've got like about 4 more weeks, and we'll get some cool announcements going.
Nice.
But I wake up in
excited
the
for that.
morning, just as
I'm
you
looking
say,
forward
just
to
as
it.
you suggest, Sema, and I I start either coding in my head or I start laying out factory lines in my head.
Yep.
and then I try mindfulness meditation. I try to clear my mind of all thoughts. I try to get that last hour of sleep. And if it doesn't happen, I get up and do some coding or do some satisfactory. Now that I've stopped playing satisfactory the past few days, I'm back to 7 hours of sleep.
Nice.
So that really was it. The last 2 nights. Well, I'd had a really big workout yesterday there too, so that might have helped. Anyway, Starfield. It doesn't have that dopamine drip hit that the way the expansion works. And I think we'll talk about that because other parts of Starfield did kind of do that to me when I was setting up on my bases and things like that. But that's not what the expansion's focused on. So let's go through an overview of what the expansion is. And Lars, maybe you can sort of like kick us off and give us your overview of how you would describe what the expansion is. And then we'll talk about the details and what each of us have seen so far. So we'll start kind of non-spoilery. By the end, we'll get a little spoilery, but neither Lars nor I has gotten through, I would say, more than 25% to 30% of the game so far. So
maybe even 10, I don't know. But so it's an exploration of the Varun faction or the House of Varun. And when Starfield dropped, we got episodes and not episodes, like mission chains of the Freestar Rangers and mission chains of the UC Vanguard, which some would argue is just as good or better than the main mission with Constellation. But we didn't get much about Varun other than there are these crazy zealots we encounter in points of interest or out in space and attacking us. So that's kind of the most part of the premise. And if you watch the trailers, there's an accident that happens, this big, massive accident. And I don't know how much I want to go into it. It's an interesting location space that we haven't seen before. The colors are really cool.
it's in the trailer, so I think we can.
Yeah, it's in the
we can talk
trailer, so I'm
about
not
it.
spoiling
It's the
that.
very
And
start. You're in
yeah,
this space station where there's weird stuff going on.
yeah, and I actually like how they started it off because I was thinking, how am I going to know how to get there, right? Like, how is it going to start? And I did find out from someone else, but it's basically if you jump into a system, into orbit of something that doesn't have something else going on in that orbit, you encounter this space station.
Yeah.
And that's how it kicks off. And
So
so
anywhere
it could
anywhere
start
in the
wherever you
galaxy
are.
you happen to jump to. Yeah.
Yeah, just outside your main base or
Right.
wherever you happen to be.
My main
So
base is
that's
on
kind of cool.
Feynman, so I just jumped home. But I had to look it up too. I was like, how do I start this thing?
Yeah, I was wondering how am I going to get this started, and it just happened. It's
I
pretty
talked to
natural.
Andresia. I was thinking, you gonna tell me anything? It's it's like Varun based, but she didn't have anything to say. But yeah, so quick jump, and you're
So I
you're
think
into it. But yeah, it's the space
it was a
station
good
shows up.
start. It was a good start, and the space station is there's no gravity, which a little bit spoilery, but no big deal. But in the Starfield universe so far, there hasn't been a lot of moments where we don't have gravity in stations or in ships, which I think we need more of. Because there's even a Starfield trait where you perform better in zero gravity versus terra firma is perform better away from zero gravity. And there's another one there in the traits. I can't remember what it is. I got it in front of me, but I'll find it. But where you can perform better in zero gravity locations, or you have features of a weapon that performs better in zero gravity. But it's like, why would I ever want this? Because I'm almost never in zero gravity. And this time you were.
Right.
And there's even a skill, the gymnastic skill can improve your performance in zero gravity situations. But I've never taken that. So it was kind of cool to jump around. And it was this weird lighting. Like it really pulled me into the game at the start of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spoiler, but I did die. And I got basically reset right back to the beginning because I forgot to save during it.
Oh,
So it really
that's a bummer. I am in fact, I had to delete a whole bunch of saves to even start this. I backed them up and I had to delete a ton of saves. As I'm starting the expansion, a message keeps popping up because you're limited to 1 gig of cloud space if you're saving to the Steam cloud. And it was complaining at me. It's like, you're all filled up with cloud saves. You're all. So I went back and I had
Before we let you continue this,
deleted a ton because I save all the time. I've trained myself now to quick save constantly.
Yeah, F5.
And then only checkpoint like major story points that I want a bigger save around, and then I'll eventually delete those or back those up and take them off.
So what did you think of that start of the Oracle?
So yeah, I think so the name of the ship is the Oracle. I think it's introducing you to the story. And again, a characteristic of, I think the way I would describe this expansion is it's very story based.
Yes.
You're injected into a storyline as you sort of described. The Ryujin storyline, the UC Vanguard storyline, the Crimson Fleet storyline. These are great storylines. And this is another storyline. So you can think of it that way in very clear terms. It is not like a game changer, a game expansion. It's not like the rest of the galaxy is not changing.
They didn't rework our skill trees or something.
And I think there's pros and cons to that, and I think we'll get to that by the end when we start talking about our overall summary. But for what it's doing here with the story, it's starting off strong. And you're right. I think this was a great setting to both have action, which is leading you through. It's introducing you to the weird stuff, which is going to sort of start you down this path of what the mystery is. Graphically, it's very enticing. It's space, which is kind of weird because the rest of the expansion is not in space, and we'll talk about that too. I like it. I like the stuff in space. That's what I'm coming to Starfield for. But the planet is beautiful and brilliant too. So it's in space. The one little bit of a miss in sort of like starting the story is as soon as you sort of transition, it tells you the story of this disaster because this space station got blasted across the galaxy. This is where you're encountering it and wherever you encounter it in the galaxy, because there was this big disaster. We never actually get to see the disaster. We see the aftermath, but I thought that was like a little bit of a miss. But I guess you can't. And sort of like where your character sees everything going on, it would have had to have been like a cutscene or a recording or something. So maybe it just didn't make sense to them from that perspective.
I mean, everyone's got their cell phone cameras out and taking pictures of it. Right?
I would think I would have liked to have seen that rather than that happen off screen. Otherwise, strong start and very sort of compelling reason then that you end up where you end up and you end up sort of mixed up in the story.
Right.
Which I think made sense. Which I think was
good.
And
I was saying in the pre-show, I really like that there's slates all over the place giving you backstory and giving you what's going on and some lore. And so I've had a lot of fun just finding those slates. And Max was saying there's an objective that's optional to pick up 4 slates in this station, but all around the main city, there's slates all over the place, and finding locations you didn't expect to find, and there's slates there explaining why they're there and why they're no longer there. Really, really good. And I think it forces us to slow down a little bit in the game and enjoy the story and not just look for the action. Now, there is a lot of action, and it's scary action and jump at you action and a lot of hand-to-hand action where they're just right on top of you, slicing you.
Yeah. Yes. The enemies I found, especially out from the very onset, are strong, and you need
Mhm.
to. And I'm a high end. I'm level 108. I'm rank 10 in all of my skills in Starborn. I'm really overpowered.
I think it definitely scales.
It does scale, so I'm hitting enemies that are definitely over level 100. They do recommend as you start the expansion, a message does come up that says you probably want to be at least level 35 for this.
Yeah.
I did see that, but it scales up, and it's still a significant fight. On the space station, when I wasn't being careful, and I was just as I would have gone through any of the other storylines, I was in trouble a couple times, and I had to start blasting some health packs.
Mhm.
So you walked. I just saw in your playthrough video there, you bounce yourself off for that energy field wall just to
Yeah,
see
and
what would happen. Of course,
teleports you out.
so did I. But
Gotta
yeah,
touch it.
so it's has impact. The fights that you get into matter and are significant. The enemies that you're up against, which kind of persist and pop out of this other dimension that you're sort of bouncing off again. So as we go through here, again, we're going to
They
get a
don't
little
quite
bit more
jump scare you,
spoilery, but
they almost do.
yeah, because
They
they're
pop in right in front of you.
they phase in, right? So you don't see them from far off. You can't just like snipe enemies from far away. They're phasing in when you're out on the planet, and they do it in the station, and they do it in various other locations. There are people that have been warped that are phasing in that you have to end up fighting against. And then also some creatures, and they're pretty terrifying. And I don't know the whole story behind them, but I keep running into them. But now I want to kill more and more of them too, because
There's definitely powers that help you, like the detect the show Stardust type thing, where you detect life forms, and it works on some of them and not others. And yeah, there's other skills that can make it more helpful. I did the Trackers Alliance mission just recently, actually, in preparation for this, and converted the Wicked rifle into an EM rifle, which is nice. It just knocks them on their ass, and they're sitting on the ground, and I can take care of their buddies.
That is you. I use my Starborn powers. I do the whatever the slow time one is. I forgot what it's called. I've got that hotkeyed more than anything else. So I just freeze time, and then I walk around and just get a bunch of headshots.
Nice.
But as I said, my Starborn side is way overpowered. That's another thing we'll get into here in just a second. About what else you can do in the game, because they added some crafting. One of the things that they didn't add a lot, but they added these grenades. No. I don't use grenades.
I haven't tried them out yet.
Yeah, so neither have I. They're actually a little bit hard to try out. So let's come back to that. But let's talk about the. Oh, okay. So very minor spoilery, but one thing I would love to mention, because it cracked me up on the space station itself, was. Tell me about where you died on the space station.
So I was about an hour into my play, and I'm looking for some power thing they told me to go get, and I'm bouncing around
real
the
quick.
ship.
Definitely mute if you haven't played this. If you haven't played this yet, mute for 2 minutes. Because
2 minutes.
But it's really fun. If you're never gonna play it, then listen. Because this is really cool. So yeah.
And the game, this episode is very linear. It really does just point you where to go. And as you can see on the playthroughs, you go to the blue dot, basically.
Yep.
But so I was following the blue dot, and I'm like, oh, there's garbage bags all over the place. And I go through another room. Oh, there's lots of garbage, and there's stuff I could pick up here. And I'm not really paying enough attention. And yeah, trash compactor.
It's a trash compactor scene.
And I couldn't save myself.
So there's
in the panic.
There's a bunch of garbage in the room, and the only way out and through is a switch on the wall. But in order to activate the switch, you have to have a power cell. There are power cells in the room, but as soon as you get close to that switch, the trash compactor turns on. And then you need to be like searching through all this garbage in the room while the trash compactor is compacting you. And so yes, I died there too.
Or if you're listening to this and maybe you just have a power cell on your inventory before you start, I guess.
So
you can carry those around.
Yeah, you can grab one before it starts compacting you,
Yeah.
which is probably a good plan, or about the
Yeah.
time it starts compacting you. But because I saw one for a second, but then by then,
Me too.
Everything was like so compacted and bouncing around, like there and all of this trash.
And when I watched my video, I'm like, the blue dot's
hilarious.
right there, you dummy.
Yeah, it was.
Viewers are
Right.
telling you the blue dot's right there, dummy. And you're in the thick of it. And like I said, I was so pulled into this series of missions, I never hit the F5 to autosave.
Okay, so
And I cut
thumbs
that
up
out
for,
at the end of this mission.
Yeah.
And then I go to the next mission, or the next episode. I had to play through the whole part until I got to the point where I had the battery.
Yeah, but I thought that was hilarious and a good.
It was
good
fun.
catch.
I
liked
loved it. It was a good.
Yeah.
It was a good kick in the butt. It was fun.
But yes, to your point, there's NPCs that phase in that tell you a little bit of the story as you go
Mhm.
too. So it's it's tell as you go, and then the data pads fill in the lore and more of the backstory of what this crew on this space station encountered. And you're right. When I started going through this again and thinking about it from a game design perspective, those data pads and that optional objective that shows up in the upper right of your screen that says, hey, here's an optional objective. You might want to go pick up these 4 data pads.
The logs.
It does 2 things. One, it provides an opportunity to give a little bit more backstory and lore because you can read these data pads and find out some interesting things and find out what happened between these people. The other thing it does is it kind of slows you down and encourages you to explore and look around and look at the room and see all these beautiful assets that they've created and that kind of thing without being too in your face and explicit about it from the player's perspective. So I think it's a clever technique
And I would say
to get
don't
players to
worry
explore.
too much about getting prepped before you go in. So one thing that was cool is there was a whole bunch of, just armor and weapons and stuff laying around at the beginning. It was like, oh, they're just feeding us stuff in case we need it and we don't have it and we're coming in here. I thought that was really cool.
Some
One
really good
YouTube
stuff,
creator
too.
I like, he had this whole series for the last 2 weeks has been about prepping and making his guesses about which, skills would be better to be preparing for this. And he wanted to get the gymnastics because he knows he's going to be in 0G and all sorts of fun stuff. But he was thinking about what weapons to have, etc. And I pointed out my EM weapon. But you don't need to prep that much. Just jump in. And if you're level 35 or above, just jump in and it scales.
In fact,
it's
you'll
a
get
fun
some
story.
upgrades as you're suggesting,
Mhm.
which I think is nice. In fact,
Yeah.
I was a little sad, and I usually decline even upgrades of gear because I've got this really cool UC set that's legendary,
Yeah.
and it's got all these little extra effects on it. But I keep getting these gear pieces that are much better in stats and much better in
Yeah.
defense. So I finally
Yeah.
switched over to this. At least it's cool looking. This cool Varun,
Nice.
suit
And
of
it's
ass
a
kicking.
lot of new stuff. It's different styles and even clothing. There's a bunch of different clothing for each of the houses.
I've
There's a
brought
lot more
Andrea.
stuff in it.
What companion did you bring? Did you bring a companion?
Andrasia, like about 90% of the population
Yeah,
of
well, I think-
Starfield, I think.
I think it fit. I actually debated, and I've been playing recently all of the storylines with no companions, and I've got the perk that you perform better with no companions. I wanted to do the no companion playthrough, because I like the companions. I like talking to them on the side when I get back to the ship, but when I'm out in the field, I find they're mid in terms of performance and usefulness. But Andrasia, I debated. I was like, should I bring her along? She should know something about this planet, right? She should know what's going on. This is her. She's
There should
part
be
of this culture.
dialogue cooked into it.
Yeah. So I did
there is
end
a
up
bit.
bringing her, and I've still have her along. And she's been performing relatively well and has a couple bits of dialogue to interject. So that's
Yeah.
that's
When you
cool.
say performing, you mean they help you fight?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Or they get in your way and stand in front of you when you're trying to shoot things.
When you're
Right.
turning around to snipe something and you're zoomed in on your scope, she comes across your scope.
Yeah, she
It's
gets her
wonderful.
face right in your face. Like, I'm trying to shoot this thing.
Well, it sounds like sometimes you have a companion in this game and sometimes you don't. And do you find yourself in your situations where you don't have the companion that you kind of like miss them like a phantom limb?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't, because I've set up. I have a skill that makes me kind of stronger when I don't have a companion.
Right. Right.
So I've set
And you
myself
can have
up.
another
I
skill that
miss
makes
them
you
because I've
stronger with a companion.
Yes.
right, because I think things
Actually, I
like
have
I
both.
could be looting this while my companion's doing that, or I could be healing while they're shooting, or they're
Right.
shooting while they're healing.
They're
Yeah.
not.
Or you could give her
yeah.
hand-to-hand weapons and she'll go straight in at them instead of hanging back, etc.
Yeah.
It's not so
Depending
much
on-
about whether they're good at it. It's just that you get used to having them there.
Mm-hmm. No, she saves my butt many times. Definitely.
They don't do as much. Like they won't do gathering for you. They don't do as much
Right.
as,
Right.
as companions in some other games.
Right.
But I mean,
I do
even in
find
WoW,
some
if I've been
snarky
playing my
comments.
hunter for a while or a warlock or something, then I go play a mage or something. I'm like, I feel
I miss
kind
my
of like,
pet.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can identify with that.
One thing that is nice is there's a lot of, especially with the main companions, there's a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
And they react to what you do and they make comments as you go along. And I got to one part when I got to the city where a side quest pops up. And the way side quests happen all across Starfield, which is really cool, is you overhear a conversation and someone will say,
Yeah.
so you can either butt into the conversation or someone will like grab you, grab your sleeve and go, hey, you got a minute? So that
Mm-hmm.
I was outside the clinic. There's a woman outside there that's like, got these medical supplies. I don't know what to do. Hey, you got a minute? So I'm like, fine, I'll play your game, you rogue. I'm like,
ship,
tell
right?
me your story. So she tells me, oh, we got these medical supplies. They've got to get out to the field. And I'm like, oh, this is a little, medical fetch quest. But all of a sudden, Andrasia pops into the conversation and goes,
Yes.
I think we should help them out. I'm like,
Yes.
well, hell, I guess we're doing this.
And you get options sometime in your dialogue where you can answer your answer, or if you have a skill, there's an extra dialogue, or one of your companions can say something for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it
And
is
sometimes get you out of a
part of the
tight
gameplay.
conversational spot too. And
Yeah.
sometimes solve the conversation for you because they have a better dialogue option than you would have had if you didn't have them along.
And there's variety. Like there's the adoring fan behind me there in the shot. And you might get tired of one companion's witty comments and you switch out for another one. And a lot of them have some interesting stories to tell, which
Yeah.
is fun too.
Let's
I
talk about the
brought along
planet.
Betty Hauser recently.
Let's talk about the planet
Yep.
itself for a second, because the planet itself is a really cool part of this too. What?
moon.
I did not go to the moon. So you said you went to the moon.
It is the moon. The planets are actually gas giants. We can't go. There's two
Oh.
planets in the system. and they're both gas giants.
Varun Kai itself is a moon around a
Is a
gas
moon,
giant.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
It's gorgeous.
it's the Varun home quote unquote planet, but yeah, that's no moon. Wait, it is a moon. So Varun Kai, graphically, really, really cool, right? I mean, what's your impression of the planet?
No, it's gorgeous. I don't know if they've done anything different in terms of design of it.
Could
but
we even
the
go here
colors-
before? I don't think we could.
No, we couldn't. This
Yeah.
system's new. This
Yeah.
system's new because
So
I
it was
just
hidden. We
recently
couldn't
visited
get
all
to
the
it.
systems.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right by Serpentis. Although by depends on the way you're viewing the Starfield.
Yeah.
But it's right by Serpentis, and it wasn't there before. And so you could just jump out of here and like jump back to Aquila City to sell stuff or whatever. Go see the Trade Authority. But I haven't yet. I'm trying to stay there and stay immersed. But I started a little bit of the missions on the second episode or so, and then my third hour, I thought, I'm going to do something different because I really do like exploring in this game. I like the surveying and get a whole planet surveyed.
Mhm.
And so I went off to the first planet, and there was one or two moons, and those were really quick because there was really nothing to do, and it was just a few mineral resources, and I had it surveyed. But then I thought, I'll just do the main one. And there's like 18 different fauna.
Yeah.
And I haven't got them all yet, but I'm getting a bunch. And they're all over the place. It's a gorgeous space. Max was saying that the vehicle didn't work so well, and I didn't even think about getting in the vehicle. I just started walking around and pointing my scanner. I noticed POIs with different names, like Secret Base or something. And I'm like, oh, I
Yep.
got to go check that out. And getting jumped by creatures was fun. And part of the Steam objectives is killing a bunch of these ones. So I thought, oh, those are the ones I need to kill. Let's go kill a bunch of them. And then I was in this other spot killing a whole bunch of creatures, and I just couldn't stop because every time I killed something, all these vultures and other things are coming down to, eat the dead meat on the ground. I just was shooting and shooting and shooting and racking up my kills for some skills. But it's a nice, interesting planet. And I haven't even visited all of the locales. I don't think there's that many different types of locales. There was a savanna that I was in, and then I think some kind of forest. I can't remember, but yeah, there's different types of
Biomes. Yeah.
Biomes is the word I'm looking for. And I mean, some planets in Starfield or moons have like 8 biomes, and others only have 1 or 2, or just frozen plains. But it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I had some nice screenshots of I was standing on top of some random abandoned ship, I think, and I noticed, wow, there's some cool screenshots here of the background with the setting or rising sun, and yeah, it was gorgeous. Definitely worth a lot of screenshots. As soon as I remember to take those screenshots.
Yeah. Yeah, it's well designed. It's a really cool planet. It's a dark planet, like this low atmosphere, so that the sky is mostly dark, but a lot of aurora constantly in the sky. Still a lot of wildlife, even though it's
and new creatures. I think I don't think they're
yeah,
recycled.
It's new stuff.
There's a lot of new creatures, a lot of new guns, a lot of new textures for armor and weapons and clothing. So yeah, they put a lot into it.
And then related to the story, you do get the story creatures phasing in and attacking you as you're out and about as well.
Yep.
But yeah, well designed as far as that goes. So I was, as you mentioned, I was disappointed. It's not ineffective, and I'm having fun with it, but the Rev 8 doesn't work that well in a couple ways on the new planet. One, it's kind of hard to get it because onto the out into the outside of the planet, because when you land, you're kind of like in a landing zone at the spaceport in the main city, which is kind of like in a crater, and there is a path that you can get out, but it's not very easy, and you gotta kind of wiggle the car to even get out of there, and then you gotta like drive around. And then the surface, the gravity is 1G, so it's higher gravity than most other planets besides Earth, obviously. And it's the surface, whatever surface you drive in, it impacts the way the device performs. And this is like driving in quicksand is what it feels like. Like the surface is like loose sand and gravel to the point that it just like slips and slides and doesn't have much traction. It doesn't go very fast. You can still use your boost and go around. And I wonder if that's for 2 reasons. One, it could just be how they designed the planet, and they didn't really think too much about it at the time. Just the characteristics that they were putting together. They wanted it to be 1G because they wanted it to be Earth-like gravity, which I actually don't like because I keep spraining my legs and fracturing my legs and spraining my ankles. I use my jetpack a ton, but on a low G planet, you can like use your jetpack and then float back down to the ground. On a high G planet, which there aren't many high G planets in reality, the Earth is the highest G surface that you can walk on in the solar system in real life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I keep now I've
gotta save a little bit of boost for just before you hit the ground, Max.
Yeah, I know. But I've also stocked up on the meds, and I put a med bay in my ship so I can make the immobilizers, which fix.
You want a lot of immobilizers for max situations, but also you need a lot of bandages and injectors.
Yeah, I haven't needed a lot of that because my Starfield, my Starbornness. Yes. I'm level 108 also, So I've got
Yeah.
skills that can I can
Right.
heal from lots of things, and I don't get many afflictions, and
It
so I'm kind of
depends which
overpowered.
settings you're using in the game as well, right? Because
Yeah,
now we have
exactly.
this settings options, and I would say I think that's interesting though as well because you could probably go in with not that many powers and not that many
Yeah.
skills,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's still it's a blast, and you would tackle it differently depending on which ones you have.
Right. Right.
So there's replayability for sure. Let's go in with another character that Max needs one with level 4 gymnastics so they don't break their legs anymore.
Yeah. I have skill points to burn, so I should just look and see if I
Put it
haven't
in
maxed that out.
gymnastics.
I definitely have a bunch of gymnastics. I don't know if I maxed it out. I've got like 7 more skill points to burn. I'm level 109 now. I already leveled up a level because you get a ton of experience off of the mobs that you're fighting, the special story mobs as well. Um, so
What else is interesting? What about the story? What about the houses? Your thoughts on that?
3 houses all alike in dignity. So this is uh again, we won't go too far into it because we haven't even
No.
played too far of it, but I think it's a fine both way to structure the expansion, and then to have these multiple factions within the Varun faction that you can work against, and have a relatively rational reason to be doing like these side quests along the way. So you basically have to ingratiate yourself with each of these 3 houses, and they each want you to do extra stuff for them, and they each then are going to feed into what you need to do for a main thing, to do a thing, to do a thing.
Yeah.
I've only met and completed one of the 3 houses so far, and there was a little bit of intrigue. There are a little bit of choices that matter that go on, a little bit of very gray choices. So I think that's all relatively good as far as this goes. The characters are well realized and well fleshed out. What about you so far? The both the main characters, the counselors that you've met, and the houses that you've been introduced to.
I think it's interesting. I've only started the one where apparently I think I need to go find a lost kid, and typical story. But that's all I've done other than side quests. There was this one side quest called The Duel, which is interesting. And I played through that one, and then I just decided I'm going to go roundabout and pick around the planets and look for things. So this is going to have a lot of content to keep me busy for a long time.
Well, let's talk about that. Because I feel like it's not as much content as I kind of wanted. The kind of content I want, which I can still go do elsewhere in the game. So as we sort of kick this off, and just to sort of round out the discussion, it's a story expansion. It is not a shipbuilding expansion, an outpost expansion. It doesn't expand on all the systems. It doesn't add new skills. It doesn't add new weapons to build. It doesn't.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of crafting. They give you this new material that's dropping off of these ghost mobs, and you can use that to craft these new kinds of interesting grenades.
Yeah.
Grenades aren't part of my playstyle right now. I might switch over and try to use grenades more in my playstyle, but it's a little bit hard to farm the materials to even make them, because it's not just the star shard. You need the star shard plus one of
Some
4
special
different
things.
special things, and you start getting those later. But anyway, I like all of those other parts of Starfield quite a bit. I like space combat.
Yeah.
I like outpost building. I kind of wished they would have said, you're going to need an outpost here on Varun. You better build one. And in fact, it's got to have, there's this new machine that consumes these new materials that you're finding, and you can mine them up in this place. You're going to probably want to set, it's not required, but it would help you out if you set, I'd be like, oh, I would be off and doing that right now.
Some new rare mineral or non-mineral they could throw into one of these moons that we need to build something new would be cool.
A common ask, which again, I think we could definitely satisfy. This one we could satisfy with creations and updates is ship parts.
Yeah.
I would have liked Varun ship parts. There are 3 ships or a handful of ships, I think maybe up to 5, that you can actually buy from the ship vendor at the port.
I haven't
But
looked.
they don't give you a lot of new ship parts that are sort of like part of the expansions. There's not, otherwise I would be off building ships too, because I love doing that.
Right. And what's one of the popular mods is one that adds more Varun type parts. And
Yes.
so I think there definitely is an opportunity there for Bethesda to drop in themselves. And I'm wondering, but I haven't gone back because I haven't ported myself out of that star system yet, is I'd like to see this expansion affect the rest of the Starfield.
Yes.
I'd like to see Varun settlers like setting up like, oh my, everything happened on our
Yeah.
home planet, we're going to go settle somewhere else, and then, oh my god, I just landed on Sol in some moon or planet in Sol system, and wow, there's some Varun settlers showing up here, and it changes the rest of the game, not just this isolated pocket. But I don't know, can they? Because it's not a required installation. It's an expansion
Right.
that you got to pay for. Most of us that got the special edition, it came included, right?
Yeah.
So how is that going to change how they develop? I don't know how, but it would be cool to see.
I saw data mining suggested there are up to 20 additional points of interest, POIs. These are the things that spawn randomly when you're out exploring a planet. I don't know if those are limited to as you're out exploring randomly on Varun Kai, or that could be a thing, and it would be great if those also then get thrown into the mix when you spawn,
Right.
when you explore
Or
random
ships in
places.
space. It could be some settlers
Yeah.
instead of just zealots.
Yeah. So we'll see on those kinds of things. I just really like that part of the game, but I still have that.
Yeah.
It's not like that has gone away in the rest of the game, and the game still exists, and I can go to all my bases and continue on that and build more ships. But the storyline is the storyline, and I can see that. Just as when you were doing UC Vanguard, it wasn't like they were saying, now you need to build a UC Vanguard outpost. That there's like those aspects of the game are separate from the story, which is taking you through the story, which is fine.
But there might be some mechanics dropped in. Maybe I
Yeah,
haven't even
we'll
looked.
see.
Maybe when I'm looking at the decorations in my outpost or on my ship, because you can build on your ship now, maybe there's some stuff in there that's going to pop up that's related to the expansion. That would be cool.
I think one key miss that they probably could have designed around, because everybody got the Rev 8, is make even part of a mission kind of like require the use of the Rev 8 as one of those things. Let's tie it back to cool things in the game. And I think the Rev 8 is one of the coolest things that they've added to the game since launch. By far.
And everyone will have it too. It's not part of an expansion, and
so
you're already level
super
35.
cool.
You better have one.
But I was a little sad that the performance on the planet is not that great. It's still useful though, and I think especially when you start going out and exploring other biomes, it's going to be a useful tool.
Yeah, you want to
we'll see.
jump out of the spaceport and jump somewhere else on the planet and the other moons.
I did love
The
when
moon.
Andreja was riding shotgun and she kept like yelling things. She really likes the Rev 8 and she gets a kick out of it.
I love the
apparently.
boost.
She's like, I like it when you boost. This is great. Go faster.
Go off the cliff. Do it again, Dad.
Which is hilarious because she's super reserved and in her mannerisms, and so that was fun.
She likes the Rev 8, definitely. But yeah, it's a great expansion. I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's driving
exactly.
a lot of. I haven't looked at the data on things like Twitch streams or things like that, but it seems people are saying there's a lot of activity going on in streamers and other thing showing Starfield playthrough.
Yeah, I would say if you're a Starfield fan, just ignore that and just get it. It's more good Starfield. If there's plenty of people who hate Starfield because they want to stick it to Bethesda.
Yeah, because
they
I
didn't
have
get
a
Elder
Sony
Scrolls 6 soon enough.
PlayStation. Or I have a PlayStation.
Or
it's not on my
PlayStation
device.
or whatever. So I think the reviews are somewhat mixed in terms of Metacritic right now, but that's only because of those other things. It's not because it's not a great expansion,
game.
or it's more of what it's supposed to be. So
It's a great game, and with creations you can change it too, which is good too.
So I expect we're going to be seeing all of the Starfield Shattered Space playthrough in your YouTube channel, Lars.
Yeah, I'm already this morning. The first episode using Shattered Space dropped. It's titled Shattered Space, and then I think I dropped one as well this afternoon. So I've got another couple ready and already published for tomorrow, and I'm just playing Shattered Space. A lot of it. It's fun. I did boot into my modded Starfield character just to check that everything worked, and they had a head. And it seems
I missed
like
this one. I missed this newest one. I was actually looking for something with like this earlier?
I haven't published anything with a new one. I just booted up into the game, updated the creations, and checked my load order, and loaded up. And he has two hands, 10 fingers, 10 toes, mostly.
Mostly.
And it runs. It didn't crash or anything. So I'm not using external mod installations. I'm using the creations through Bethesda, and it works fine. And I think I have like 25 or 30 creations installed for this character.
Excellent.
It's cool.
Check out that list. As
one of the ones that drop soon is I like creations that are fully decorated homes already. So instead of like having to decorate it yourself, you just install a creation that has an Aquila apartment that's fully decorated.
Oh,
which
that's
is really
cool.
fun. It's got all sorts of workstations and infinite size containers and stuff for you to put your things, so you can just move into this apartment. And
I like that.
it's nice. It's one of the parts of the creations that I really like is
Especially
fully
if you could
decorated
then modify it a little bit yourself. Like,
house. You can continue to modify it.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
I really would love that if they would do that for Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Yeah, I like that part of the game. I like that they added the outpost creations into the ships, into the houses. That was a big change, I think. And I wonder Max, we'll see later, what they're going to do with Outpost and how they're going to change it. And I think it's one of the least used parts of the game. And based on my Steam achievements, and that my most rare achievement is about connecting 5 outposts or whatever, and I'm like 2.7% of the population has this achievement.
That reminds me, I did. So the expansion dropped on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Or whatever it was. Monday.
Monday, my brother's birthday.
So it dropped on Monday. And the first thing I did was spend 2 hours finishing the Ryogen quest line, because they did some bug fixes as well that came along the way. And one of the bugs is I had a blocking bug that would not allow me to finish without redoing the whole quest line, because Timu, dude, who I was supposed to track down towards the end of the quest line, was missing. Wherever you tried to find him, he was missing. They fixed that. So I went through then and finished Ryogen. And that was the last achievement. So I'm now 100% on all the original achievements. As soon as I get to 100% on the Shattered Space achievements, then I'll finally go and start modding.
Nice. I haven't done that quest line, so I'm looking forward to it as well.
Ryogen?
Yeah.
For me, it was
sneaky.
less favorite. Yes, it's very sort of like stealth, sneaky, and the storyline is very corporate espionage. I liked Crimson Fleet quite a bit. I like UC Vanguard a ton.
You got so much to do.
Crimson Fleet. I think Crimson Fleet is really good. I really like UC Vanguard.
I'm doing that on my second character. It doesn't really fit the backstory of my first character. So.
Well, it can definitely fit the backstory of either character, because there's multiple ways to go.
Yeah, that's true. So we'll see.
It's choices that matter on all of these, which is really kind of cool. But yeah, so one of the things I may do too for just a fun side project is I would like to crack it open and make one of my own creations someday. I just want to make a gun that's on fire. That's what I like to do.
That shoots kittens. Yes.
All right, Sema, I know we sort of glossed over a lot of things. I know you were sort of tied up in real life this week as well. I think next week you're going to have to give us a full rundown of what's going on in World of Warcraft. I think we're going to expect that. So look forward to that next week. So maybe next week we'll talk a little bit about Throne and Liberty and World of Warcraft. Anything else from you, Sema, this week before we wrap up?
Well, I will comment that out of the blue, I suddenly decided that maybe I'm going to try Apple Arcade.
Okay. Maybe we'll get a full report on what Apple Arcade looks like.
Because I finally went kind of over the line on, and the reason I'm thinking of that is because all the games in Apple Arcade, they don't have ads or in-game purchases.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, hey,
is
maybe
Lemmings on there?
No.
Oh, okay.
But that did make me start thinking about retro games, because
you were talking about Lemmings earlier, and I know that's a key one for you. If you ever got Lemmings on something,
yes,
you would be
like,
there.
You'd probably never see me again. But so I'm thinking they probably don't have the big name games, but they'll probably have like clones of every type of game.
Probably. If anyone
Sounds
knows any
fun.
good games on Apple Arcade that Sema should be trying
Yeah,
out, drop them
let us
in.
know.
Drop them in our Discord or on the social medias, and she'll check them out and give us a full reporting on what Apple Arcade looks like. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And then Lars, we will certainly be following Lars Gagnar Gaming, Lars Gagnar Gaming on YouTube, and everything else you do in all the Discords, because you're part of the AIE Discord as well.
Yeah.
We sort of skipped over this in the middle, but we can wrap it up here at the end. Certainly, thank you to everyone hanging out here in the chat room, and all of our AIE friends at AIE-guild.org. For us here, all the feed and subscribe links, as per usual, are all on newoverlords.com, and our video for this and everything we've done is all up on YouTube/newoverlords. Please come chat with us in our Discord, as we've said. Lars is there too. That's newoverlords.com/Discord. And you can follow on all of the social media networks while they exist, and we'll keep you up to date there too on when things go live and when the episode gets published. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later,
See you in
everyone.
Starfield, everybody.